a terrifying mystery is revealed in the city center in a startling turn of events. Today, we explore the frightening case of Kira Steger, which has perplexed the detectives for years. Before we start, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And now, let's get going. Kira Steger, 30 years old, disappeared from the Mall of America, where she worked as a sales associate at a clothes boutique on February 23. Her fellow workers were concerned about her when she mysteriously didn't show up for work. So they tried calling and texting her, but got no answer. Kira originated from Des Plaines, Illinois. She was devoted to her work and had a stellar reputation for her empathy and compassion. Kira worked a shift on Thursday, February 21, 2013, just 2 days before she vanished. As far as her co-workers could tell, she was in a good mood and looking forward to going to an excellent restaurant with her spouse after their shop had closed. Kira and Jeffrey Trevino had been married for 3 years after beginning their relationship as friends. They gave off an air of contentment and stability. But on the 23rd of February, Kira's absence from the office raised some eyebrows among her fellow workers. Kira was always on time and stern. Her co-workers tried calling her husband, Jeffrey, but he had no clue where his wife was. According to Jeffrey, Kira departed the house early the day before and hasn't returned. He stated that she sometimes vanished for days at a time, with a tendency of staying at the houses of various acquaintances. After Kira Steger disappeared without a trace, her husband Jeffrey submitted a missing person complaint. The police rushed to Jeffrey's house to question him. Jeffrey said that the two had supper, went bowling, and then departed the mall for some alone time. Kira wanted to watch a movie that day, so they went home. Minor disputes are common in all households, so Jeffrey thought it was expected that Kira will go missing occasionally. The investigators questioned Jeffrey about the whereabouts of Kira or where she may be staying or whether she had a romantic interest. The man declined, citing his affection and trust in his wife.
So, what's going on? Thursday night, we decided to try to have a date night. We had a nice dinner, we talked, everything was good. From there, we went upstairs. We both played games. We left the mall, we went out to the parking lot, came straight home. She wanted to watch the movie.
To verify Jeffrey's story and collect evidence, the police went to the Mall of America in Bloomington. The shopping center included 520 stores, a course for playing golf, an oceanarium and cinemas, and had various surveillance cameras. The police reviewed the tapes and discovered nothing unusual. They saw on the tape that Kira and Jeffrey meet after work, had fun at the mall as Jeffrey described. Kira's family relocated to Bloomington to aid with the inquiry as their fears of her safety escalated. Posters and brochures featuring Kira were distributed across town, and flyers were handed out to the public. While questioning neighbors, the detectives found a surveillance camera mounted on the neighbor's home that rotated and caught Kira and Jeffrey's residence. To get answers, detectives requested copies of the surveillance tape from the owner. Upon reviewing Kira's phone records, investigators discovered that Kira had a man in her life named Ryan Wendt, who managed a store in the same chain where she worked. They had been together for a long time and were quite close, but when Kira vanished, Ryan was out of town. The authorities learned that Ryan was on his way to Colorado when Kira had gone missing. Kira and Ryan were exchanging text messages while she was at dinner with her husband. Investigators checked Ryan's phone and credit card records and determined that he was out of town that night and had nothing to do with Kira's abduction. The messages timestamps that Kira was still communicating with Ryan after she and her husband had returned home. But around 11:44 p.m., they stopped talking and Kira's smartphone had been silent since then. The footage from the surveillance cameras at Kira's next-door neighbor's house was being examined by a group of detectives. Because of the camera's rapid rotation, it was impossible to keep track of any potentially suspicious movement. As the camera panned to the right, they saw only a fleeting glimpse of Jeffrey and Kira's home. They watched the camera and saw that sometime after 2 a.m., Kira's car backed out of the yard. Jeffrey said Kira asked him to fill up her car with gas. At 3 in the morning, he was spotted at the patrol station. It's unknown where he went, but he didn't return to home after that, and instead headed toward the highway. On February 25th, a strange car was discovered close to Kira's place of employment. prompting the filing of a missing person report. Guards saw an abandoned vehicle after it had been there for a while and dispatched a tow vehicle to remove it. It was Kira's white Chevy. The tow truck driver spotted strange red marks on the trunk lid and notified detectives. The detectives noticed something black in the snow behind the vehicle. It was later discovered that the other side of the rolled-up trunk mat was stained with blood. Family and acquaintances of Kira Steger were shocked to learn that the DNA testing had confirmed that it was her blood. Kira's death finding raised many concerns regarding how and why she may have lost her life. Detectives saw on the mall's cameras movements of a guy who was wearing a hood over his head. The masked man crossed the street and approached a taxi, where he spoke briefly with the taxi driver. The cops could trace the owner of the taxi company and found out that the taxi was equipped with GPS trackers and could be monitored in real time. On that day, the taxi dropped off a guy near Jeff and Kira's home. After obtaining a warrant for a search, the police arrived at the residence, which seemed to be completely normal at first. The detective found evidence of a recent renovation in the couple's bedroom and blood splatter. Blood streaks were on the carpeting, confirming that Kira had been killed. There was no sign of a struggle or blood when the police checked Jeffrey's automobile. A gas station ticket discovered in Jeffrey's vehicle reveals the use of his credit card. Jeffrey was spotted on surveillance film at the gas station getting petrol and taking money out of an ATM. Like the prior video, the one showed an image of his facial features and an emblem on his jacket. Afterwards, the 39-year-old Jeffrey Trevino was taken into custody. He was taken into the authorities for questioning, and his lawyer instructed him to not answer any questions. There was enough evidence for the police to prosecute Jeffrey, but needed a body. A bloodied pillow, blouse, and undergarments were among the items discovered in a bag by volunteers after months of looking in the Keller Lake. The St. Paul police got a troubling call on May 8, 2013, reporting a corpse in the Mississippi River.
Hey, so with Upper River Services here in St. Paul? Okay. I'm fairly confident I have a dead body stuck under my wharf barge down here.
The police found the corpse, but it was unclothed. As evidenced by dental records, Kira Steger suffered serious direct impact injuries to her forehead and a broken fingertip on her left hand. The extensive stage of decay made it impossible for medical examiners to ascertain a definitive cause of death. The detectives worked tirelessly to reconstruct the circumstances that led to Kira's death. Investigators assumed Kira was sending a text message when Jeffrey reached over and shattered her finger, making her angry. Jeffrey sadly murdered Kira and then tried to hide his crime. He drove her car away from their residence, dumped her body, then went home, throwing away Kira's pillow and belongings. He took money from an ATM the following morning, presumably to pay for a taxi after leaving Kira's car in the mall's parking garage. After removing Kira's car, Jeffrey spent the rest of the day tidying the house thoroughly. He made a sly move to give the impression that Kira was fine and driving away in her car that morning. Surveillance cameras nevertheless disrupted his dishonest scheme by recording evidence that showed otherwise. A jury convicted 39-year-old Jeffrey Trevino guilty in October 2013. After discovering his wife was unfaithful, the prosecution successfully claimed that the crime happened during a quick and passionate dispute. Family members of Kira spoke to the judge before he handed out his punishment. Kira's sister, Kira Steger, called him an estimated monster who must be punished severely. As Kira's mother, Marcy, pointed out, Trevino was heartless to her daughter. She said he threw her away like garbage in the country's most contaminated piece of water. Kira's dad, Jay, said that no amount of time in prison will ever make up for the damage Trevino did to his family. He felt that time spent by Trevino wasn't going to make up for their grief. Jeffrey Trevino was sentenced to 27 years in November 2013. In 2031, he can apply for release from prison. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and never stop seeking the truth.